Okay, well, thank you so much, Austrina, first of all, for the lovely introduction and more importantly,
Yes.
for actually inviting us here today.
Yes, thank you so much for the invite. It's very nice to join you today, and we are very excited to be part of this discussion on how and why to promote DEI best practices in SMEs via communication. Full disclosure, both of us are very interested in marketing communications, but we are not DEI experts. Rather, we think of it more as we are DEI enthusiasts, and today's presentation from us is going to be more of we hope that it'll be more of a conversation opener, and we know that you have been discussing this very important topic for a while now. So we aren't going to go into too much of the basics. We know that you know what is diversity. We know that you have already a good foundation on what DEI means, but we do hope that this presentation will shed at least some light on how marketing and how DEI plays in marketing and communications. So,
And if you have any questions in the meantime during our presentation, please be active. Write down your thoughts in the chat and we'll be more than happy to address all those right after the presentation or even in between, whatever works best for our Serena here as the moderator today.
absolutely. So today we're going to look a little bit at the challenges that are involved, why DEI matters, and how to promote DEI in SMEs. Before we go too much further, Austrina, can you please confirm that you can see our screen? Okay,
Perfect.
all right. Better now than 20 minutes later. Okay, so we are together, a couple of expats. That is kind of our brand, but the duo behind the brand is myself, Megha, and my husband, Kristaps. Today we call Finland home, but we moved here back in 2018. We were just bright-eyed students who had a lot of ambition and no idea what was waiting for us. The journey has been a very colorful one, to say the least. We both came as master's students. I came to study molecular biotechnology, and currently I work as a marketing coordinator in a tech company. So yes, I've taken a very traditional career path. I have taken quite a detour, indeed, but I very much enjoy marketing, and that has realized into us also dedicating our evenings and weekends to Couple of Expats. So you might wonder, what is that? So we are creating content about life in Finland, and our goal is to make things more accessible in Finland, because one of the first things we recognized as internationals is that we are having difficulty finding information in English. But over to my partner, who will introduce himself.
Yeah, so I'm Kristaps, I'm Megha's husband, as it has become evident by now. My day job is actually in higher education. I am right now working at Aalto University as the research coordinator there. But what Megha and I do, apart from our day jobs, is we are also business partners in the evenings and weekends, as we like to say. So a Couple of Expats is our baby, it's our business, and it's something we're building for a few years now already. And yeah, despite maybe not being the best equity inclusion experts or professionals in Finland, yet we are passionate about the topic. We are enthusiasts in that way, and we are a multicultural couple and building a life here. So in that way, if you are students in Finland with a foreign background, we really understand where you come from. We've been in your shoes. We've been here for a little over than 6 years now. So happy to share any kind of expertise we can. But now let's move on.
Absolutely. So, at this point, let's take a little bit of a step back and talk about how diversity is a fact, inclusion is an act, and belonging is the outcome of these. And of course, I did not come up with that. That's a quote from Arthur Chan. But yeah, my first thought when I looked at this quote was that belonging really is not something that happens very easily, despite us having moved 2018, like that's pre-COVID. It's a pretty long time ago. Even today, we struggle with belonging and with finding a sense of belonging in Finland. So that is really a long road, and some of you if you're studying in Finland or if you're studying in was it Austria, Germany?
Austria is there, yeah. Maybe even
Okay.
Germany. I think Austria.
We have US and Turkey and many other places as well.
Yes. Well, most of our talk will be from a Finland perspective, but hopefully that applies a little bit to you as well. But feel free to let us know more about yourselves in the chat. But finding a sense of belonging can be a process, and that is something that diversity, equity, and inclusion also contributes to.
Now, maybe let's take a moment and think about Finland. So where does Finland actually stand in terms of diversity, equity, and inclusion? To answer that question, I think good self-exercise would also be to actually ask you to leave in the chat how long all of you have been in Finland now. So how much you actually know about the situation here? As we said, we've been here for a little over than 6 years, so we have seen a lot of things happening. We have seen certain things getting better, certain things maybe getting worse over the years. But that being said, statistics don't lie. You can clearly see those on the screen. I will not repeat all the numbers there, but things like discrimination exist in Finland, both based on their ethnicity and the skin color. Many foreigners struggle to find a job, so that is something you are experiencing. You're not alone. As sad as that might be, that is the real situation here, but we hope that there are a few takeaways later on in the presentation that you can actually take and apply as you progress from students to professionals in the working life. Again, speaking about the situation in Finland here, I'm sure some of these headlines are very familiar to you. This is how the situation is being portrayed on the news. So, I guess most of you have seen Finland being portrayed as the world's happiest country in the world. Education works, the system works, the well-being is amazing. But there is a lot behind that nice bubble that Finland is great and excellent. And there are things that Finland still could improve. And we think that maybe this hackathon, the case studies you are working with, maybe those are also solutions that can hopefully someday be implemented and actually help make Finland better for all of us. Again, research shows that diversity has many different definitions in both everyday language and the research. If you look at the definition, for example, that's being provided by the Finnish Institute of Occupational Health, they define diverse workforce as one that varies in terms of age, gender, ethnic or national background, nationality, language, religion, belief, sexual orientation, family situation, disability, health, workability, neurodiversity, educational background, values, and personality. And really want all of you to take a moment and just think about what diversity means to you on a personal level. It doesn't have to be a long definition with all the fancy words and all the right words, even if I might put it like that. Just what does it really mean to you? And why are you passionate about the topic? If anyone is brave enough, please share your thoughts in the chat.
Or turn on your microphone.
Well, let me break the ice here, since you have an iceberg. And probably a very biased reflection immediately. I think it's about finding the two-way path. Because one thing is, to bring forward all this diversity, but at the same time, thinking of two-way paths, how to live with that together, to me is the key. And I think specifically about the idea of course, foreigners and so on and so forth. So we see a lot of problems, but at the same time, it's a two-way effort that I would like at least to see this in a way. So that's a breaking the ice reflection, if I may.
Yes, thank you for sharing. So it's funny that you mentioned ice because now we're looking at an iceberg. So that was not planned at all, but coincidentally, the next part is how DEI is often compared to an iceberg. And I think this very well depicts why an iceberg, because you only usually see the tip of the iceberg. So you see me right now and you can tell that I have brown skin. What you might not be able to tell is, do I have any invisible disabilities, or do I have any religious beliefs, or those are things that usually you cannot make out about an individual immediately, or those are the unseen elements, but those are also very important to take into account. And that is why I think it is very important to be compassionate about, since we are talking about the workplace here. So I would say that is very important to remember when you are speaking to your colleagues or your supervisor or basically anyone at your workplace. Yes, then we wanted to kind of touch upon why do work communities really need diversity. I think this is a very small part of the whole picture, but one very good reason why we need diversity is because diversity helps to make organizations more resilient and adaptive. So if there's anything that we know for sure, it is that change is coming and change is constantly happening around us. And diversity is just one of the things that makes us as individuals more adaptable to change. It helps us develop a positive growth mindset. And yes, as I think those are very important characteristics to develop, both as an individual and both also as a professional. Yes, and if we want to quickly now get into the challenges, because okay, it's clear that diversity, equity, and inclusion, it brings so much good. So what are some of the challenges that are standing in the way? Well, in no order, just some of the most biggest challenges are limited resources. Since we are talking about SMEs, they are usually they have either resource restraints in terms of funding or in terms of the number of HR. So one way or the other, there might be some limitations in that sense. There might be some biases going on at the workplaces that people are unaware of. So one might even bring about that, like generational differences, and how different people of different age perceive things differently, and they might have a unconscious bias that they are not aware of that leads to some sort of discrepancies in terms of hiring or promotions at work. Leadership commitment is very important for bringing about diversity, equity, inclusion. I think this is definitely something that leaders need to get behind if they want to see that change. And it's not only leaders. This is not exclusive to leaders. I definitely think that that is something that needs to be like part of the entire company or organization culture, but leaders can definitely set a good example. And then one challenge might be that if you are not very knowledgeable about DEI, you might be afraid of what to say. So you might be afraid of what not to say and what might be acceptable and not acceptable, and that prevents you from having a conversation, which is a bit problematic because the first step is to have a conversation. And
or maybe first is to be brave enough to have the conversation, because when you look at Finland, when you think about the businesses and companies here, majority of them are small and medium-sized enterprises. Sure, there are some large companies like Kone, Nokia and others, but the majority of them, or the vast majority, are actually SMEs. And SMEs can range from 10 to maybe 200 or even 250 employees. But since Finland has this kind of like this bottom-up approach, it's very easy to communicate about things that you might be passionate about. And that is something that both the leadership, of course, does, but also you as an employee. Even if you start working in a small company that has 10 or less employees, and you might be the only person there with a foreign background, you can still bring up things like DEI if you are passionate about them, and people will hear you because the communication is so open and transparent. When we think about now the next slide here, when you think about promoting diversity, equity, and inclusion, of course, as it has been already established, it is a great thing to have. It is a thing to aspire to have. But at the end of the day, the senior leadership has many, many questions on their mind, especially if they have not been actively promoting diversity, equity, inclusion in the past in their work practices. So senior leadership might think about, why should we actually put in that extra work? Will there be any benefits that doing this will actually bring to our company? Where and how do we start? Because if they have no knowledge or expertise in this field, they really need to figure out what steps to take to actually take this forward once they have the idea. So then it comes to maybe hiring training consultants or actually investing in some kind of workshops and things like that. Of course, as a business leader, you also have to think about, are there any immediate benefits that the company might see? Or if they are not immediate, how long will it actually take to see real change? Because business leaders have to measure so many different things, but seeing the change, and the quicker the better, it's always considered better, which is tough when you think about it takes time. It is not a fast process. Yeah. Next, we have marked down here a few steps to take to cultivate diversity, equity, inclusion in SMEs. And this is a timeline, but at the same time, it is not really a timeline. If you pay close attention to, we have designed this as an infinity symbol, meaning that the work never ends. You can first start with analyzing the current state. So start by identifying any gaps in the workplace, diversity, equity, and inclusion. And once you have analyzed those gaps, you can actually move forward to providing some kind of training. And when you think about training, it is very, very important to educate both the employees and the senior leadership as well. Because at workplace, everyone should have access to the training about new things. It is also important from the business point of view to set clear goals, so defining measurable objectives and how you will actually measure those things. Once that is done, you can move on forward to implementing inclusive recruitment practices, and that's very, very important from the perspective of HR, for example. Now, if we think about ourselves as foreigners living in Finland, and once we look for places that we would like to work at, we do pay attention if the company websites actually promote diversity, equity, inclusion on the site there. Because if you are passionate about the topic and the company website does not reflect the inclusion, for example, in any possible way, you as a candidate may immediately lose the interest. And if you are a very skilled and talented employee and the company maybe does not care about the same causes as you, or they care but they are unable to show it online in their online presence, then they might simply lose out on a good employee that they might be potentially hiring in the future. Now moving on, there's also the need to create an inclusive workplace culture. So it is good to have things written on a piece of paper, but at the end of the day, you actually need to implement things, see how the workplace is doing and how you actually implement the things there. And ensuring accountability is also very, very important. So we have to always measure the progress. It can be surveys, it can be feedback discussions like one-on-one or team meetings, whatnot. But if you are implementing new things, it's important to also follow up on those. And I think at this step, once you talk about the accountability and you see something is not working, just go back to the drawing board. Maybe revisit the step about setting clear goals. Try to see what went wrong, what should maybe be changed. Or go back to inclusive recruitment practices. Try to identify there what is not working. So you can always go back to any of the steps. That's why we like to call this an infinity, because the work never ends.
So some ways to promote communication, as that is the main topic of today's presentation. So here are some of the things that are very important in marketing and communication, whether that be what, so Kristaps mentioned earlier, when you're looking for a job, you do pay attention to how does this company look like? Does it look like it would be something suitable for me? Does it look like a place that I want to spend hundreds of hours at? So I think it's very clear that job seekers are very interested to know these things, especially in this day and age. So it's important to take day into consideration when handling the company's policies and messaging. In case you do end up working for SMEs, you might be in charge of their social media accounts. You might be doing their website copywriting. These are things that you can hopefully bring positive change in, because it does matter. Storytelling, very important. It's very good to bring out the different people, different individuals who are working at your company, different, let's say, case studies of your interaction with customers, or basically your company culture that individuals can learn about. Active listening is very important, and it really says a lot about a company, whether the leaders are receptive to active listening. I have worked actually or I am currently working at a Finnish SME, and I have worked at another one before this. So in both cases, I have been the only female person of color. In both cases, I have been one of the youngest people working at the company. So one could say that I am one of the most vulnerable at the company. But at the same time, I think early on in my career, I did make it a point that I would not let that stop me from sharing what is important to me. And this is where Finland's bottom-up system works very favorably. Here in the working environment, it's not just about what the leaders are saying. Even if you are the company trainee, your voice matters, and that is why we at least think that that you should definitely share your voice at Finnish SMEs, and don't let anything stop you from doing that. And I know that is a big ask, especially if you feel like if you are new, if you are vulnerable, telling you to go for it. I know that it can be tricky, but hopefully you find companies that share the same values and respect you for sharing your voice.
Yeah, so maybe just like a short also tip from myself, we just like be brave and discuss DEI at the workplace. Because simply discussing it, talking about it, bringing things to the senior leadership table, just by talking, it actually promotes it already, and it helps start the discussion. It's also what Austin earlier mentioned about when we had the iceberg image on the slides. It is a two-way communication. So somebody has to start it, and then people actually respond to it.
Yes, and going back to the benefits, the benefits of
I have a question.
yes.
Oh, yes, please.
But yeah, clear communication is definitely very important, and it works when people actually in that mindset up with empathetic perspective and try to understand the pain point of the other person. But as usually, most of the cases or many cases, it depends country to country, but people has been triggered when they express their opinion about this kind of thing. So how actually this clear communication will help them out, because there is a chance clear communication might increase the problem rather to solve the problem.
Well, at least my take would be to walk into the water slowly.
Yeah.
If you don't know if there's quicksand, then we wouldn't advise you to jump into the water, not knowing how deep it is. So take baby steps, and of course, if the environment doesn't allow for being open for open communication, then perhaps it's time to think of whether you can possibly change your environment. But taking slow steps is important, and of course, it takes time to build.
Yeah, but even if you take slow steps, take them either way. Don't just like do nothing. That never.
That's the thing I was actually trying to mention, because in formal environment, sometimes people show they are getting and understanding me actually, but that their inner situation is not like that. They take it in their head, and later on it might affect me or other person who is actually expressing his or her inner thought or the situation they are trying to explain.
Maybe I can step in here also as a person for a long time living in here. I think it's important that you find culturally appropriate ways to address the question. So the way open communication, for example, would mean from my perspective as a Lithuanian is not necessarily the way the Finnish person would see the open communication, right? So for example, if I would be totally comfortable to discuss like face to face and address the thing, right? Here, the first good step would be to actually write an email, or to sort of have a very personal, or to write something that, I maybe would like to discuss something with you, and then sort of like Megha and said, sort of start slow in a way which is culturally acceptable. And I think this would be a very, very important key. And particularly getting back to this point, which was raised about that people may not be aware of those things. I do remember doing a podcast with one VP, and it's available on YouTube actually. And she very nicely tells a story of how, for example, managers in her team were not even thinking that doing the meetings in the afternoon were not comfortable, because it would prevent her to participate, because she would have a duty to pick up her child from the daycare. And so sort of she brought this up as saying, can we do the meetings more in the first part of the day versus the second part of the day? And without any like immediate accusations or anything, because they were not even thinking. And then she was like, yeah, and then they realized that there was something wrong about this, right? So in a sense that I think these are elements that are quite important to reflect when we are thinking about this. What does open mean? Because open's definition can be very, very different. So thank you for bringing this, Nahid. Very good comment. And I think it's a very important element that we understand that even DEI, as we learn throughout these webinars, means very different things in different countries and in different contexts. So yes.
Absolutely. And did someone have their hand raised? Did somebody else have a point?
Before we take the next one, I would like to show, if I may show very quickly, we do a treasure hunt here.
Oh.
So and you guys were lucky to have the last treasure piece hidden in your session. So people were striving to get 15 pieces like this, and this is the last piece, although it's number 10, but it's the last piece in the puzzle for them. And so after this, we'll be so much looking forward to get the whole riddle, a poem that they were collecting throughout these 10 days in our email. And the one who emails us first is going to win a very nice prize. So you were lucky to hold the last treasure, definitely not least treasure, but probably the most valuable treasure in the room, because it gives the key to the prize. So I hope you all noted that last piece. And I'll stop sharing so you can continue the presentation. And the hand was by Tiffany. And actually, Tiffany, I think, have many questions. So Tiffany,
Yes.
I give the floor to you, as well as the whole webinar and the further conversation.
Yes, thank you. Yes, I'm sorry, I wrote them in the chat because I missed the beginning of the session, so I wasn't sure if I could interrupt your presentation or if I should wait till the end. But a few slides ago, you were talking about the recruitment, and I was wondering what you think about the companies that are using the anonymous application form, and do you think that there are still ways to identify DEI aspects even with this type of recruitment?
Yeah, thank you. That is a really great question. I will answer that first. Maybe Megha can comment later.
All yours.
Living in Finland for now quite a few years, I have stumbled upon the anonymous recruiting system for many times. Because of my background, I am fairly fluent in Finnish by now, so many jobs that I'm applying to are in Finnish. And when you think about writing the motivation letter, for example, in that system, the recruiter still knows at the end of the day that my writing style is not that of a native speaker. So I think like irrespective of what I put there, what kind of accomplishments on educational background I might have or whatnot, at the end of the day, despite it being anonymous, it takes just reading a few sentences and you immediately know. So as sad as it might be, I think to some ways anonymous recruiting can be good, but in some ways it just does not work if you have a foreign background. That would be my very short answer. Does that
Hey.
answer your question, or were you looking for something?
Yes, it does. It does answer.
Okay, perfect.
If I may ask something else again, you were also talking about the storytelling, and I was wondering if there is any risk that this would be either seen as like cultural appropriation, or if it would be seen as bad, meaning that it would be seen as if the company would just make itself look good, or is that something that's always well interpreted?
I suppose there's always two sides of a coin, and perhaps that is always possible. But I do think the good outweighs the bad here, because a big part of what we do is about transparency and kind of trying to showcase company cultures. And well, there's quite many ways to do that nowadays. You can make videos about how it is to work at the company. There can be blogs about your customers. So we live in an age where the possibilities are endless to share stories, and I think stories are very much part of the narrative. So my opinion would be that the positive is more it outweighs the negative, but of course you do want to be careful. For example, the company that I work at, our products are often our customers are often confidential customers. So then you have to tread carefully. There are some customers that you probably will not get to publicly interview. Others might be very happy to share what they're working on. Some might not. There's a lot of things to take into account. For example, you do not want to share proprietary technology. That is not something that you're going to be putting into ChatGPT, hopefully, and you don't want to put that in a video. But so there are things that you do not share, but I think people are happy to learn, to see most of the things that you can share through storytelling.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. So if we just continue the benefits of diversity for the workplace, thank you for the great questions and please keep them coming. But benefits, obviously, being in a place where you feel that you are equal to your colleagues, I think that is tremendous. Just knowing, going to that place every day, knowing that all of you are treated in the same manner and that you have the same prospects for a promotion or how much money you make. I think that weighs on us pretty heavily. And whether you're a woman who if you are going into a workplace as a woman who is getting paid less than her male counterpart, if you are in a place where you feel like you're getting discriminated because of your skin color, these are things that really affect us as employees and affect our productivity. So the benefits of DEI are huge, and I think employee satisfaction goes a long way when you feel that you are in a place that not just pays the bills, but respects you as a human being and values you. Last but not least, a little bit about us as digital creators. So you can find us on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram. And that means that we are constantly in a public space sharing about us, sharing about our lives. And when Austrine asked us to do this presentation, we were a little bit puzzled how to do this because we are creators, we are marketers, we aren't DEI specialists. But what we realized was that, well, a lot of the things that you preach start at home, and for us, diversity starts at home. For years now, we have navigated cultural differences, cultural similarities, cultural shocks, both being a Latvian Indian couple and then living in Finland. That not only affects the two of us, but it affects our parents, it affects our relatives, and we have been able to combine those cultures. So for us, diversity starts at home, and it has only strengthened our thoughts on the importance of DEI and to embrace the need to embrace diversity, both in Finnish community. And that is why we kind of accidentally became advocates for internationals living in Finland. We are providing guidance on the different topics, and we're on YouTube. Most of our videos are educational, but if you tune into social media, it becomes more entertaining and educational. But thousands of people have found their way to us, and the common thread has been a love for Finland. But with having such a good amazing thing like a community of 17,000 people currently comes responsibility, and we don't take this responsibility lightly. We are careful of what we say, we are careful of what we do, because we do believe that all of it matters, and we try our best to use our voice to represent internationals in a way that is mindful of others. Do you have anything else to add?
I mean, after that, no way. I mean, I think that was such a perfect ending and really nice. I almost got tears in my eyes for a moment there.
And from my side, I thank you so much for a wonderful presentation, and I hope that your couple's perspectives would inspire others to be advocates and raise awareness about important things. As you said, diversity starts at home, right? So all of us can do and speak up.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And as one final key takeaway, we have prepared a self-analysis checklist here about diversity, equity, and inclusion. Please take a screenshot. Maybe you will receive the slides later on. I'm not entirely sure, but either way, this is a self-exercise we have prepared for you, so you can just think about the topic in more detail, and you can also think about, is this something that you feel like is already addressed good in your life, or do you feel like this is something that actually needs a little bit more improvement, and it could be improved and maybe help you in the future as well.
And for the students and the audience, if you wonder, we would probably not add the slide, but we can definitely, if that is okay with you, add this self-analysis checklist in our resource webpage, because we have a webpage on the website where there's a lot of resources. So if you want, we can take this out of the presentation and add it there, because then it will remain on the project resources, and that way everybody is able to access it. So if that is all right with you, we would definitely like to have this there.
Yes, for sure.
Yes, totally.
And the webinar can be actually posted on YouTube with your permission. That's also possible.
Yes,
Yeah, that's okay.
that's okay.
Yeah.
You can find us there anyways. So